Hi, I'm John Peragine, the Chief Revenue Officer here at AudienceTown, the advertising platform for real estate, moving, and home. With me today is Tom Kershaw. Tom, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Tom Kershaw. I'm the CTO of Magnite, which is an omnichannel advertising platform. I'm also the chairman of Previd.org, which is an open source software organization for advertisers.
Thanks, Tom. Tom, you and I caught up a little bit during the week, earlier last week when a lot of this announcement went on with Google. We'd love to hear your POV and really be the translation layer for how this could possibly affect, or maybe doesn't affect, real estate marketers today. Maybe before we get into that, you can explain a little bit about what Prebid does for the open web and how that's really valuable for marketers.
Well, Previd is an open source software organization that creates standards for the industry to use. And before Previd came along, all the different platforms kind of had their own proprietary stuff, and they didn't interoperate very well. And we all kind of, kept all of our code in little boxes under our beds when it was hidden. And it wasn't serving the industry very well. It was favoring Google and Facebook and not giving, advertisers access to, the broader internet. So we said, enough of this, we're going to create standards. And so we put all of our stuff into an open source software organization. Prebid now has over 100 members, so a ton of publishers, a ton of ad agencies, a ton of buyers, and pretty much every platform is in Prebid now. So we're doing things together, we're collaborating, we're sharing, and we're taking friction out of the process. And we're also giving publishers control. I mean, what Prebid is really about is letting the publishers have control over the demand and over their inventory so that they can optimize for their own specific needs. And it means you as a buyer get access to the users you really want when you want them.
Gotcha. And a big part of that control is also control over IDs, right? Like a universal ID. So when the cookie does crumble or go away, there's a solution in place for, still being able to target audiences and other types of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the old system is buyers can put any value on a page that they want. Publishers had no way to restrict, control, or manage the number of identifiers that were put onto the page. And I think a lot of consumers started to say, what's going on here? I need to be able to control my own privacy. And publishers, that's who you have the relationship with on the internet. You don't go on the internet because you want to see how Chrome's working. You go on the internet because you want to find an article or a video or song. And so it's the publisher that is creating the content that makes the internet worth using. And it's perfectly natural for the publisher to be the one who controls that privacy relationship. But we have built systems that will allow identities and audiences to persist and to continue. So anyone who thinks that there's some bad thing is going to happen, it certainly is not. The industry is well prepared for this change. And it's going to be a better internet when we're done with it than it was when we started.
That's great to hear, and I knew you've been working on that for a long time. So I'm happy to share it with the real estate industry because that'll make them feel at ease. The real estate industry is I'm gonna say it's definitely overinvested in Google search and display. How do these changes affect any of what they're doing today? And I guess, should they be looking for alternatives or other things?
Look at, like, the real estate market is heavily driven by performance-based advertising. And what I mean by that is it's driven by intent. So you're trying to reach people who are looking for a home or people who are looking to sell a home. It's less driven by brand or like perceptive advertising like you would see on television. And so I think, with these changes to the cookie, performance-based advertising is going to change. It's going to be different. And there will be real opportunities for you to find your users more effectively. So think about things like clean rooms. Clean rooms is a way for you to take your known user and the publisher's known users and match them in real time and find exactly the person you're trying to reach, but in a completely privacy-centric way. These new mechanisms, which we've deployed, which are out there, Prebid has solutions for this, Magnite has solutions for this that are in production today and have been for months. So these are the kind of things you really need to think about is how to pivot and take advantage of these new technologies to do things more effectively.
Yeah, totally. I agree. And with the larger ecosystem that Magnite and Prebid and all of these other companies are helping come together in an open source way to really power that universal ID and still allow and really the back end of making sure all of this really works. That is what should make basically marketers not feel worried about, because the back end infrastructure is there for what they were doing before to still happen without Google, making these with Google making these changes without having to worry about it affecting their business.
Yeah, you should think about this is it's amazing how great this change really is. So the current system is all these different folks are throwing cookies on pages, and it's not coordinated, it's not shared, it's completely anarchic, and it's hard for buyers to make sense of all these identifiers. We're moving to a new system where there'll be a single standardized identifier, UID2. We just announced that UID2 is going to be run by Prebid, so Prebid is going to operate it. So now you have an identifier that's run by the community, that's owned by the community, it's owned by all of us. It's not owned by a for-profit company. It's not operated by someone who can change, increase the price by 80 zillion%, and just because they feel like it. This is owned by us, so you all own it, including the larger community. So that community asset is really going to give a lot of power, stability, and trust to our overall to our industry.
Yeah, that's I love every bit of that. The other thing that you mentioned in an article that you wrote last week was that this levels the playing field. I thought that was a really good soundbite about leveling the playing field. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you think about the last 10 years of the internet, Google and Facebook have logged in user rates of 90-something%. So 90% of people who use Facebook are logged in. How many people who read the New York Times are logged in? How many people who read the New York Post are logged in? Not many. So what it means is that the majority of the internet did not have access to the information and the targeting data that these two behemoths did, and it created a disequilibrium in our industry that's now being corrected by the fact that we're all moving towards an anonymous, privacy-first internet, and the rules by which Google will play will be the same that everybody else plays with, and I think that's a huge step forward for the internet.
Yeah, I agree. It's a huge step forward as well. One of the things that we saw in the real estate world was that Facebook and Google have, pulled back a lot of the targeting capabilities they have in real estate. That was the first thing that really kind of shook a lot of our clients. Was like, oh man, we can't target people that are moving anymore, or we don't have the ways to do it because Facebook removed a lot of that. Google removed a lot of that. So now with this latest announcement, they were shooken for a second time, but it's great to know that the industry at a large is looking to create something that's open source that handles all of this. It's been in the works for years. It's gained steam and share, and really that this level playing field will make real estate marketers have really the power to still be able to target and do the things they want to do, and not have to rely on some of the tactics they've had to in the past.
Yeah, and it'll also mean that you can use tools across all sites on the internet. Like right now, you've got a specific set of Facebook tools, you got a specific set of Google tools, you got a specific set of of mobile app tools. You have a whole different set for CTV. So you don't have access to the full range of audiences that you do with these new systems. So to imagine with one interface, you can direct your spend to exactly where your subscribers are at a given moment, and not have to deal with all these different silos. It's going to be a much easier world to transact on and find the right users when you want to find them.
Yeah, it's all about making it easy. Everyone wants it easier. So, well, Tom, thank you very much for your time today.
Hey, thanks, John. I always appreciate it.